Okay, so we've watched the second part of the lesson. Um, can you guys look back at our questions and how does she help her students develop higher order questions? What are some of the things that she did? Anything? Go ahead. Well, she had the students think about, or they actually wrote the questions ahead of time, so they were already written when she started the lesson. And then they started talking about, um, whether they were valid. So they started talking back and forth about what they thought about the questions that each one had come up with, right?
Right.
Okay. So what do students learn from both writing and discussing questions? So what do you think they're learning, or how is this helping them? Any ideas?
It's helping them learn more about the text.
Okay, but how do you feel that way? I mean, what is it that was going on that makes you feel that way?
When they don't know a word or something that's happening, like a phrase or something in the text, they can ask a question and use other parts in the text to figure that out.
Right. And then how does it help to hear their classmates questioning?
You can see if your questioning's not as good,
sophisticated. Right, but it's not all negative, right?
it's not all that.
Doesn't it help kind of to, maybe it validates what you thought too,
Yeah.
right? So you're going to hear where the other students in your class validate the way you felt too at that part in the story.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, and then how do they, well, that was the next question, do they validate? And why is that step important? So why do you think it's important for them to not just write the question down and think it in their mind, but to actually say it out loud and have somebody else tell them that? Because that's like a really important
They
step.
get feedback and they understand if what they're thinking is what everybody else is thinking in the same passage.
Right, very good. All right, so that was that one, and we'll move on to all right, so this is the last strategy that I want to teach you. Now I know, like you're sitting, you're doing, what do we call that? Do you remember what I called when you talk to each other? Think, pair, share. It's think, pair, share. Okay? So I want you to try to use that in your classroom. It's a great strategy for any time that you're asking questions. Just have the students, instead of raising their hand right away and answering, actually turn to their partner and talk. And that gives the kids an opportunity to think about something before they're actually raising up their hand. Gives them more think time. And my last strategy that I want to show you is this stoplight exit slip. Exit slips are really big in school right now because it gives you an easy way to find out what your student learned while you were teaching your lesson. All they have to do, you give them maybe one quick question, they're going to jot it down and they're going to answer it. And that's going to tell you whether or not your lesson was successful. Okay? This is a little bit more helpful, I think, when I saw this one. What you're going to do is you're going to give your students sticky notes. So just give them a little sticky note, and you hand it over to them, and you say, I'm going to give you your choice. You're either going to tell me what you learned, you're going to tell me an idea of a question or a lingering thought that you have, or you're going to tell me something that happened during the lesson that made you stop learning. Was there anything that caused you to not be able to finish your thought? Okay? And then as you walk out the door, you're going to go up to my board where I have it, and you're just going to put your sticky up there. Okay? I would have my students put their name on it. Only because if you really had an issue, like if you had a student who was completely lost, you would be able to go back and you could say, oh, that was Albert. Now I need to work with him tomorrow. Okay? And this is something that will help you with your next lesson. Because then you can look at your stickies, you can say to yourself, okay, they got it, I can move on. Or, they didn't get it, I need to go back and reteach this. Okay? So, finish up what you're doing, write down a nice little note for me, stick it on the board on the way out, and Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Gagnon.